David, welcome to our
Yeah. Yep.
partner recording, AGI partner. I don't know what we're going to call this thing, but thanks. Good to see you. I think I saw you last in Austin, Texas, at our
Yeah.
multi-day
Yeah, that
event
was
down
good.
there. Did you enjoy Austin?
Yeah, I lived there for a while before going to this event, so I took the opportunity to visit some friends.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, Austin is a good place. It's a fun place to be.
Yes, it's cool. Yeah, there's like 5,000 tech companies in Austin now, so it's really become kind of
Yeah.
a
Mm.
interesting little
Yeah.
epicenter of
Yeah, at
stuff.
Arduino we have our own office there. It's more focused on sales and
Hmm.
especially like dealing with corporate customers. Like pre-sale support and these kind of things. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's good to be there. I spent
Yeah.
6 months there. I got a chance to visit a lot of people and get to know
Mhm.
the ecosystem and what's happening and so on.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's
And good
growing.
live music
People
too.
move out
Some good
to
live music
California.
as well.
Yeah, yeah, and
Pretty
cycling,
good.
which is what I like to do.
Oh, cycling. Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about Arduino. And you're probably
Mhm,
one of the best people to talk about Arduino since you're a co-founder of Arduino. And
mhm.
I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has heard of Arduino because you guys have been around for like, what, 20 years now? Is it your 20th
Yeah,
anniversary coming?
yeah. 2025 is 20th anniversary. Actually this morning I was reading it's also the 20th anniversary of JIT. So it's like JIT and Arduino were born actually with like a
Mhm.
month's difference. Funny enough.
Interesting.
Yeah.
2005 was
I
a
mean,
special year.
it looked like. I guess we
Yeah,
had no big international conflict, so we could focus on development instead.
that's true.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
but it
so
was
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You can tell.
no, it was like but yeah, we're turning 20 years. Our community has
Mhm.
grown a lot. Now we hire people that studied with Arduino at high school, so
Yeah.
so it makes me feel pretty old, I have to say, but it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to when you interview people and you realize that they bought into the philosophy of our project when it was
Mhm.
just an open source project before it even became a company,
Mhm.
and that's I think quite special, to grow
Yeah.
with this kind of
Right. Well,
things.
I mean, Arduino has educated a generation of developers, basically, which is pretty cool. And you guys started,
Mhm.
as I understand it, so Arduino is named after a cafe that you guys used to hang out at in Ivrea,
Yeah, well, long story. Yeah, yeah.
coffee shop,
So
and
actually, Arduino was the first king of Italy, right? In year
that's right.
around year
About the
1000.
year 1000 or so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that named half the places in this village, or well, village. As soon as I say village, they will be upset with me, but it's like the small city of Ivrea in Italy,
Right.
and then yeah, there is a Arduino Square, and there's the Arduino Café, and we
Oh,
used to sit there. And so when we're trying to name the project, we actually we were not super creative. We were just trying to have a name to register an open source project, and Arduino was not taken, and we just used it.
yeah.
So it was like a
Well,
coincidence.
there you go. Sometimes that's the
Mhm.
way the best names come from, just happenstance, and they stick.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And actually, yeah. So I was going to say we're going to have our event. We just talked about our event in Austin. We're going to be back in Italy in Milan in July, which will be exciting
Mhm.
to go back there too as well. But so yeah, so
Yeah, actually,
you guys
I was
started in
talking to some people in the
2000.
workshop. I'm interrupting you guys. Like,
No, go for it.
no, I was just saying, just like a minute ago, before jumping into this recording, I was just talking to some of the people that was in a tinyML or HAI workshop last week in Malawi, like sponsored by
Oh,
the
that's right.
foundation and Arduino. Yeah, so
Yes.
we
So
can
you
totally
were in
talk about that.
Malawi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was there. It was actually really good. Like the
Cool.
students that participated in the workshop and some professionals as well were
Yeah.
exceptionally good. They came with really great ideas, and
Mm,
we can see how like the content that's been made for the workshop by Marco Senaro from SCTP and
yeah.
Marcelo from Brazil, well, Chile and Brazil, and the guys from Slovenia, Joao and John. It's really
Mm,
starting to crystallize into something really good. Like
mm,
it was really well orchestrated, so the students could really follow from like the origins of neural networks and how they vanished and they came back, and how that then suddenly became the origin of HAI.
Right.
And then we could do a lot of very practical examples where the students could really work with voice and images and so on. And that turned out really, really well. And yeah, so a minute ago, actually, because it was so good that the teachers we just keep on chatting on WhatsApp. Somebody said like, "Oh, you have to come to Italy in July," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I might. You never
Yeah.
know. I have an
Do
office
it.
there."
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's so for those that don't know, there was a program in Malawi in East Africa recently
Mhm.
where there was kind of a whole symposium of learning there for educators and students.
Mhm.
And one of the key things I think about the foundation, and I think that kind of snaps into sort of the Arduino philosophy, is kind of empowerment through knowledge and just getting educated. And sometimes you're educated as a student. I think we all were, but sometimes you're also educated as a professional. You're always learning new things. And I guess with
Mhm.
tinyML and Edge AI, I mean, I was going to ask you, like, how do you think things have changed in the past few years? I mean, Arduino's been around for 20 years, but the Edge
Mhm.
AI, tinyML stuff, maybe in the past 5 years, has become a little more prevalent. How have things changed for Arduino as AI has become more of a thing?
Yeah. I mean, well, as you know, first of all, we started working with microcontrollers. I mean, the other thing we were looking for was for an easy way to for people to access the technology.
Right.
It felt almost ridiculous that it was so expensive and that it was so complicated to just do something that would detect pressing a button and turning on a light,
Sure. Yeah.
which is like the, if you think about it, one of the biggest successes in the IoT business is the interactive digital lamps. you know, so
Ah.
so it's the one thing that sells the most. Like the biggest IoT device is connected lamps. So
Hmm.
from that perspective, why should it be hard to create that? That was one of our goals, and we,
Mhm.
we went from there to now we have full Linux computers with 8 cores and that can
Yeah.
be updated over the air, right? So with that increase of functionality, we can also do a lot of the from the small AI kind of things, from the really tiny ML, like small systems for like a couple of tens of kilobytes that can do small inference to check temperature or respond to gestures or
Mhm.
whatever, to actually systems where you can load your AI with a Docker container over the air,
Yeah.
So yeah, we have grown a lot, at Arduino, and definitely being part of the growth of the HI Foundation has helped us to also shape our development. Because when we
Mhm.
started, it was my partner Massimo started to collaborate with BJ and Pete Warden, and trying to figure out, oh, do we have a processor that can actually compute the smallest AI you can have? And oh, yeah, it turns out we have. Okay, let's try to do something with this. Became the first book on O'Reilly on teaching tinyML, and it became kind of like the de facto. Our words became the de facto words for teaching computer vision with AI and so on. So
Mm.
yeah, it definitely is. This journey helped Arduino become what it is now. It's this
Yeah.
interaction with the foundation has helped us to really do these kind of things.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think, yeah, like you said, AI on the edge has come a long way, even in the past 5 years. I mean, have you seen any inklings yet of people trying to do generative AI on some of your platforms? I mean, it's you started with sort of the 8-bit Atmel,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
going to work. But
Well,
where is this going? It's like,
yeah. Well, I can imagine. Well, right now our most powerful computer is a headless computer that is not really meant to use in home environments or like more. It runs in
mhm,
Yocto Linux that is really meant to be embedded in a machine somewhere.
right.
Maybe operating a machine that flies, for example.
Hmm.
Um, so in that kind of situations, generative AI doesn't, as of today, doesn't make any sense. I think we will see generative AI working in other ways in the future that it will go beyond just creativity kind of tasks, like more like looking at solving complex problems when they're happening.
Hmm.
But as of now, we haven't seen. I cannot really report because of our portfolio allows to do what it allows to do, right?
Right. Right.
Like on the other hand, I have to say, like just yesterday, actually, one of our designers in Italy, he connected Claude to Arduino CLI as a
Mm.
demo, and he shared with us our internal Slack. And it's beautiful because he has managed to, like, by giving access to the command line in his computer to Claude, he would say like, oh, make me a program where I have a potentiometer connected to pin whatever and this thing on this other pin, and the system would automatically create it, upload the code, and
Mm.
the work would just work.
Right,
So
right.
so I see multiple uh, multiple ways where AI and machine learning and tiny machine learning uh, can interact with the Arduino ecosystem in multiple ways.
Right, right.
Also, as you might know, I'm also teaching at Malmo University here in Sweden, and I'm the head of the Masters in Interaction Design, and we actually teach our students how to train their own LLMs. And the first thing they do, because we also teach them Arduino, the first thing they do is to have the LLM program for them. So they teach them with like the
Right.
whatever code base they can find, so that but so what is I think it's opening up for very right now it's very well, but I think we're gonna see more and more like not just useful but also creative uses of things that we haven't imagined. And I think that's one of the beauties
Yeah.
of technology. Like
Yeah.
we create a platform that enables other people to do something we never thought about, and we're starting to see some of those results.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, you could argue one of the biggest impacts of generative AI right now on technology is just in the developer space, so the
Mm,
ability, they call it vibe coding now, and like the ability to use, cursor.ai and some of these startups that are really
mhm,
revolutionizing the way code's being developed. And I guess in these embedded systems and other things, using generative AI and training language models to help, accelerate that development is probably
mm,
a huge, huge opportunity, especially I think for people that are learning the space to get someone to sort
mhm.
of help
Yeah,
figure that out. So that is pretty
yeah.
cool. And the other thing I think that you mentioned was interesting and people don't always realize is sometimes the simplest implementations are the most effective. So you mentioned about smart lamps. I was at a conference for physical AI recently, and I reminded everyone the most successful robot in history is the Roomba, the vacuum cleaning robot.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need to build a full humanoid that does backflips, to be effective.
Mhm.
And so Arduino is kind of an interesting platform in that it provides, that real kind of foundational implementations that can do sometimes simpler things, but much more effectively rather than doing something much
Mhm.
more complex that could cost a lot of money and not be as effective. So yeah, sometimes,
Mhm.
small is the new big when it comes to some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, that's something we saw in Arduino, especially when we look at our potential and existing industrial customers. They're
Yeah.
looking at incremental changes in their processes because I cannot really embrace like what AI can really bring all at once, because I will require changing so many processes.
Yeah.
But maybe like automating something here or there, and for those kind of things, actually, tinyML is great. For example, I mean, imagine a power drill where you, for example, sense how the current is administered to the motor, and that allows you to know whether you chose the right bit for the hole you have to drill.
Right.
Those
Right.
very, very simple things where you can apply very simple sensing to produce a great impact for a
Hmm.
couple of cents. Because that's really the thing. Like if AI is gonna make your drill be costing like 10% more, people might not buy it. So,
Right.
so we
Right.
we need to figure out how to do these incremental changes, and those small changes will have a huge effect, a lot more than we can anticipate. So I think
Right.
there's a big opportunity there, and
Yeah.
actually what our CEO Fabio Violante has been doing is to go meet a lot of these companies who
Mm.
are uh, looking at these like small changes and discuss with them. Okay, why don't you try this thing? Why you try that thing? And what can we
Right.
do for you? And so on. Obviously, as
Yeah.
Arduino, we want to sell our boards, right? but
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I think one of the big areas maybe people don't realize too is like in terms of there's brownfield and there's greenfield implementations. And so greenfield usually means like ripping everything out and starting over again or building something brand new, which is very rare because it's very expensive. And,
Mhm,
many times, especially in the industrial manufacturing space, all the CapEx has been depreciated and people have working factories and working processes, like you said.
mhm,
And so those are what we would call brownfield deployments, where you're adding capabilities to an existing deployment and maybe adding AI capabilities or telemetry in the field. And
mhm.
that's kind of like the vast majority of business out there these days is,
Yeah,
how do you add something that's already a sunk cost and a working process, add more efficiency, more intelligence to it. And then, at some point the equipment will be replaced, and then there'll be some sort of upgrade. But a lot of people don't realize the brownfield is kind of where the action is.
I think it's the bread and butter today, because let's say you have like a production chain, for example, you use PLCs to control the speed and decide whether something has to be replaced, and you are using an old computer with some old computer vision. Now you can put everything in a camera this size, and that needs to trigger an on-off. Like the current thing has to be removed from the lamp because it's not okay, So, and that costs a fraction of the price as well. That's crazy. But right now, when these cameras cost $100, and they can do hundreds of frames per second, a lot more than traditional systems based on other cameras with computers dedicated. So that's the interesting thing, and that also minimizes or let's say modularizes the production line a lot more, in a sense, in a way that makes it very easy to add new things to it, and make it very operative, also from a replacement perspective, and allows you to also have an ecosystem where you can think about parts from different vendors, so you're not locked into a vendor. Because a lot of the time your sensor, if it talks over Modbus or CAN bus or whatever other thing, I just sends you like, oh, I detected the mistake, and then your system just knows, oh, when I get a signal like this, I have to push the robot arm, I have to move the next thing. I think it's okay. I'm gonna make a wild statement. This is kind of like when IBM standardized the design of computers. Like, in a sense, now we can have systems that are smart at sensor level, and they can trigger things through standardized communication lines like Modbuses, I2Cs, and whatever, so that they don't need to actually know, the intelligence doesn't need to know what is at the other side. It just needs to know this is a signal that triggers me, period.
Right. No, exactly. I think, sort of having the intelligence at the sensor level enables the kind of the metadata to be communicated over standard protocols, which can be super efficient. Like you said, it also enables, a lot more flexibility of vendors and partners to hook equipment together and stuff like that. We had talked about, so we originally started talking about Austin. Arduino is founded in Italy. You were just in Africa. So Arduino is really a worldwide company these days. I mean, what kind of geographies are you seeing the most activity these days for your kind of stuff? Is there one, or is it just like happening everywhere?
Well, okay. I think it depends on the product line. As you can imagine, the US plays a very important role for us. Has always played a very important role for us, because the US has a different approach to, let's say, experimenting with technology. Like, a company could say like, oh, let's just invest $500,000 and replace all of our PLCs. You see that very seldom at other geographies. People plan differently and so on. So that's interesting. But then at the same time, as you know, Europe is 50 something percent small and medium sized companies. So it's like, we've seen a lot of our industrial products really starting to be used in this context. But then if you move to, for example, countries like India, in India, we have open manufacturing in India, which is the first time we manufacture outside of Italy, because there was such a huge demand of our educational boards.
I see.
So, basically that allows us to cut down the cost, because otherwise we are not competitive if we manufacture in Italy and then have to export there, and so on and so forth. So for us, it's very interesting, the fact that I always say this as a joke, but Arduino is a software company and we have 60 hardware products, right? But it's because we can basically plug our systems into any existing factory. I think we are the best example of a retrofitting system. Like, we have our testing machines, we have our designs, we come to a factory and put on the table, this is what we want to do. And at the end, we put our machines and say, well, the only thing you need to do when it comes out, you have to put it in here and make some of our automatic testing. And that's why we have 100% yield in our productions, because every single board is tested one by one, which is not very common for a medium-sized operation like Arduino. Making sure that 100% of the boards, when they reach the end user, are functional, so that the experience of like programming them and putting them into work is very, very lean.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Interesting.
that's
Wow.
our approach.
Okay.
And I again, AI also plays a big role there, you know,
Mm,
in our testing processes and so on. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's
Sounds like
it's
there's
been a
you guys, yeah, a lot of activity, and you're I'm sure you're racking up a lot of miles too. Going from Africa to Austin to Sweden and Italy and a lot of other stuff too. But it's a worldwide
and that,
phenomenon. Like we have in the foundation, we have so many different companies from different parts of
yeah.
the different parts of the world. So uh,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
and I want to insist actually that some of this work we are doing with like Africa and so on is actually thanks to the foundation and to ICTP and the
That's
figure of
right.
Marco Gennaro, who is very much pushing for it with the help of UNESCO and some other entities. So I think it's also very important to understand how the dissemination of knowledge around technology needs to have all of these different actors collaborating, because I don't think we can
Hmm.
put everything on a single person or a single entity. It's very hard. So
Hmm.
unless we all collaborate, this technology will not reach out to certain places. And I cannot state how important I think it is for reaching out. And again, uh, I'm still in shock on how good the guys were in Malawi and the workshop
Mm,
we ran. No, no,
yeah.
seriously, like incredible incredible professionality and level. I understand that also people who applied were a bit more senior, like people already
Hmm.
had their bachelor, for example, than what we've been teaching at other places. But at the same time, I mean, I think it's a combination of the level of interest that this is awakening and happening at other places, at different places.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an effort we should continue to pursue. It's
Yeah,
only
yeah,
going to
no,
happen.
definitely. We're excited about it, and AGI Foundation has a scholarship fund, and that's we use the scholarship fund for activities like that, as well as fellowships and travel grants and things like that. So we're going to continue to fund that because what it's doing is it's educating the next generation of leadership, and also empowering folks from all these geographies to understand how to use this stuff locally, which is pretty cool, and
Mhm.
kind of democratizing it a little bit. So that's good. Good stuff. Well, David, it's been great catching up again. I'm sure I'll see you in person in the next few months somewhere. Who knows? Maybe an airport
Hopefully,
somewhere. But yeah,
would it
thanks.
be the first time?
Yes, thanks
Would it be the
again,
first
and
time meeting
thanks for your
somebody at the
support.
airport? Yeah,
Yes,
thank you so much.
exactly. All right.
Yeah,
Take care, David. Thanks. Bye.
thanks for having us. Take care. Bye.